Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to another diaspora dialogue. And today we will be talking about a very important topic, exploring Pan African mental health through the lens of history. And whether you're watching live or catching the replay, you are in for something insightful and valuable. So get ready, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and at any time, we'll try to get as many as possible. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest today, Patience, and I would be inviting Patience to the stage right now. Hi, Patience. Hi,
Hi,
Patience.
Esther. Good evening. How are you doing today?
Yeah, it's such a gift to have you here today.
Oh, same here.
Can you hear me?
Very well. I can hear you, Esther. I can hear you very clearly. Very well.
Oh,
It's good to be with
okay. So,
you tonight. I'm glad to be here tonight with you. And
is
hello, everyone. Mhm.
hi, Patience. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Esther. I can hear you.
Oh,
Please
okay.
confirm if you can hear me.
I can. I can hear you.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right. So, hello, everyone. Good to our viewers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all you dear family across the diaspora. It is truly an honor for me to be here today, although it is already night where I am in Nigeria, West Africa. And I'm glad to be here to share this space with wise, resilient, and fellow Black visionary souls. I want to start by acknowledging the various ancestral lands we are on right now. Our forefathers who fought and sacrificed before us, and the future we are shaping together here and now by virtue of this event. My heartfelt thanks also goes to the organizers of this powerful space, this sacred dialogue. Yes, I call it a sacred dialogue. And by the time we're done, you will know why. I appreciate you inviting me, and I appreciate the privilege to speak at a gathering that brings minds, hearts, and souls across oceans and continents together because we are all bound by a shared history, a shared wound, but also a shared strength. Today, we are going to talk, or we are gathering to talk about something that is deeply personal yet collectively shared, which is our mental health, our roots, our history, and our future. The theme of our conversation, like you already know, centers around rebuilding Black consciousness through our bloodline. And this theme resonates with me as a person deeply because I need us to understand something, please. We're not here to just talk about trauma. Whenever we think about Black consciousness and all that, our mind always goes to trauma. I don't blame us, okay? It's normal. But I am not here to talk just about trauma alone. We are here to talk about transformation, about what it means for us to wake up in a world that once told us to forget who we are and to begin remembering piece by piece the fullness of our being. I would like to share a personal story with us. You know, growing up, precisely during my 15s, I remember I was having this feeling of emptiness, this sense of emptiness, a longing for something that I couldn't quite place a name on. It wasn't until I began to explore my history through life books that were authored by credible African writers from both their first-hand experience as well as the properly documented eyewitnesses' experience of their direct predecessors. I read them, I consumed this very well. I also listened directly, to the experienced elderly ones, especially my late centenarian grandpa. Of course, he lived above 100 years. I think he died at the age of 104, if I'm not mistaken. A storehouse of wisdom, of wealth, knowledge, history. I sat at his feet and I learned firsthand about our ancestors' struggles and triumphs. That I began to understand that initial feeling of emptiness I was feeling or I was having was actually a longing. It was a call. And that is a call to reconnect with my bloodline, my identity. So, dear brothers and sisters in diaspora, I would like us to begin with truth about our inheritance of silence. It's no longer new that we inherited silence, okay? And it's part of what we are battling when we talk about mental health in the Black experience. The Black experience, whether here, I mean, for those of us living in the African continent or for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, is deeply layered. We are born into systems shaped by slavery, colonization, apathy, displacement, and economic oppression. But perhaps one of the most insidious effects of these legacies is the silence it taught us to carry. In many Black communities, mental health still wears a mask, as we are discussing right now. It's still wearing that mask. It is often whispered, that is, if at all there will be a whisper, pushed aside as weakness or prayerfully ignored. For those of us who are very religious in this part of the world, I know we Africans, we are religious. Africans tend to be more Catholic than the Pope always, right? Okay, and I understand why. I understand why. This is not to lash us, okay? The thing there is that
Mm-hmm.
when generations before us we are trying to survive physical change, colonial classrooms, segregated schools, there was little room for vulnerability. Emotions
Yes.
became a luxury that many of our ancestors, our forefathers, could not afford. But the pain did not go away, it got
Yes.
passed down in our genes, in our behaviors, the stories that we did not tell. And do you know what that condition is called? That is epigenetics.
Mm.
Epigenetics. Yes, epigenetics. That is how trauma embeds itself biologically, emotionally, and spiritually. How it is passed down from ancestors or forefathers to the current generation through their genes. Epigenetics. So some of us have inherited fear without knowing why. Anxiety that spikes at authority figures, a deep distrust of institutions, a struggle to rest because somewhere in our lineage, rest was punished. Yes, way down in history, you dare not rest when you have a lot of work to do under the colonial masters. So this struggle to rest was later repackaged to us as dignity in labor by modern day neo-colonizers. In fact, in Nigeria, okay, if most of you have been following up what has been going on in Nigeria, if you know us very well, we make a lot of jokes. Nigerians, we
Yes.
joke a lot about
Yes.
everything, out of everything. But don't get
Mm-hmm.
us wrong, that's survival technique, okay? Because if we take life too serious, I mean, we'll be consumed sometimes. So we make jokes. So along this line, based on our ancestors' struggle to rest and our own struggle to rest because we inherited it, all right? So there's this joke we
Yes.
often make here, in part of the world, that we Africans like to work too much that even when we die, we receive an appointed letter. to continue working as ancestors. you know. So our daily lifestyle is all about work, 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 with little to no rest at all. This, in case you may not know, is ancestral trauma. And it is real. It's in all of us, myself inclusive. Okay? So colonization was not just a theft of our land, it was also a theft of our identity, of our linguistic heritage, our worldview, our values. Their aim was to disconnect us from our true selves. That is a form of spiritual violence that continues to affect us today, wherever we are. Colonization told us to see ourselves through the eyes of someone else. And when someone controls your mirror, they control your mind. When you start seeing yourself through the eyes of someone else, you are finished. So imagine being told, just imagine being told that your native name, your African native name is too difficult to pronounce or is sounding somehow a cake. But you, as an African, you are expected by them to happily accept Schwarzenegger or Zuckerberg as easy peasy names, right? Imagine being
Mhm.
told your language is backward. Imagine being told your cultural background is demonic. Your ancestors were primitive. Your skin color is a curse. Hello, Melanie? A curse? Come on. So, over time, some of us begin to internalize these messages. We begin to self doubt, to self erase as well. And slowly, colonization moves from external control to internal confusion. We became disconnected from ourselves, our lineage, our forefathers, our indigenous knowledge systems. And without roots, any tree becomes unstable. Have you ever seen a tree standing tall without roots? Now imagine
Mhm.
what it's like for us. So, but the good news here is that we are waking up. That's the first step, okay, in the right direction. And for the record, please, I want to put this more like a caveat to whom it may concern. Blacks were never slaves from the day one of our existence. Please take note of that. Listen and listen very carefully to me right. We blacks have always been free from time immemorial, and we are still 100% freeborns. Mind you, when the colonizers came to Nigeria or to Africa and other, Nigeria, Ghana, and other African countries, they did not steal slaves. They did not come down here to steal slaves. No. When they came down, they stole scientists, they stole doctors, they stole warriors, architects, astronomers, lawmakers, teachers, astrologers, entrepreneurs, fathers, mothers, daughters, sons, you name them. They stole these bags of talent, stole them away, and made them slaves. So Africans, we are never slaves. We were never born slaves. We've always been free. But here is the truth as well. Colonialism's power lies in our forgetting. When we forget who we truly are, we become vulnerable to their internalized oppression, self-doubt, and disconnection. So now I want to ask you listening, how much of who we are have we truly claimed? How much of our history and culture have we reclaimed in our daily lives, including our native attires and domestic? How much of it have we reclaimed? Blacks in Africa, in diaspora. That is a rhetorical question anyway. So the journey to our healing begins when we start to remember, when we start to rebuild that missing piece of ourselves, what we had before we were stolen, taken away from our roots. So I hope at least we can now see very clearly how important it is, for us to bounce back, to heal, to rebuild Black consciousness. I hope everyone is beginning to see the importance of that. So remember, like what I said, to heal, we must remember who we are. And I'm not just talking about memory in terms of facts or history books. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about remembering. Re hyphen remembering. That means bringing together the fragmented parts of our dismembered selves. We have to remember our dismembered selves. This is why conversations like this matter. This because our healing is not a personal thing. It's collective. It happened to us collectively, so we have to heal collectively. It is cultural. It is ancestral. Okay. Many of us have experienced pain, lots of language. Of course, I think I should be the assistant admin in that WhatsApp group of those who lost languages. Yes. So don't think because you're in the diaspora, you are the only disadvantaged one. Even some of us right here in Africa, we are victims of globalization. We lost touch with our languages. We cannot communicate very well, effectively in our native tongues. Not something to be proud of anyway, but it is what it is. Many of us have experienced disconnection from our roots, generational cycles of struggle. It's important to recognize that these experiences are not signs of weakness. No, they are signs of resilience. They are part of our story. Okay? And understanding that story is the first step towards healing. For us to bring back Black consciousness, we must begin from within. Everything must start from within. Just like we say, especially for women understand best when they say beauty is skin deep. If you want to glow on the outside, you have to take care of what is going on inside. Eat well, and you'll see the results. Your skin will be skinny, as we say in Nigeria. All right, so for us to build or rebuild our Black consciousness, we must start by honoring our emotional truth. Our emotional truth is to honor it. Cry when you need to. Name your pain. Name it. Don't be silent about it. Don't make excuses for those causing you pain. Seek help where necessary. Saying, I'm not okay, I'm not being ashamed, is the way to go. Okay? We also have to start by reconnecting with our cultural roots through African systems like storytelling, drumming, dance, age grade and similar communities, gatherings of that kind, by learning our histories outside of colonial textbooks, of course. Let me tell us something, and I'm saying this right because this is actually me. I was never moved to read any colonial history textbook concerning Africa. I have never read one, and I will never read one. I guess I was Rasta right from birth. I guess I have never been drawn to it. How many of us know about the African Writer series that Yusuf of knows? I consume them. Go and look for
Mm.
them. Things for no longer at ease. Okay, the concubine. Not only the ones you use for those of us in Africa, there are some of them we use as literature textbooks. You're not reading them just to pass exams. Read them to know who you are. Understand what really happened. Hear from the main witnesses and their direct survivors. Therein lies some things about ourselves. You can start from there. Okay? Knowing that Black civilization, we are great before colonialism, not because of colonialism, is one step to our healing. Okay? Now, how many of us here are aware of the fact that Egypt was the first world power which ruled the world for many centuries, just as the combined power of the United States and Great Britain is today? How many of us are aware of that? Oh, well, now you know, you never knew. And where is Egypt? Sitting somewhere pretty in the northern part of Africa. and you tell us our history began with colonization or slavery, think again. We have to also reclaim our native languages. There are many ways we can. Every time we say a name in Yoruba, in Zulu, in Tree, Igbo, Haitian Creole, Hausa, Oromo, Wolof, Patois, anytime we say a name in these languages and the rest, we defy erasure. Yes, we defy erasure of our linguistic heritage. No thanks to globalization. And of course, by loving our blackness. Of course, black is beautiful in all its shapes, dialects, and diaspora. You don't need to be told that black is beautiful by this time. Need you? Of course. The only skin created by God that can be sun for 1 hour. Yes. Anyone think their skin type is supreme to the black skin. I defy you. If I dare you, come down to Africa. Choose any African country of your choice. Stand under our sun for 1 hour and let the sun tell us who is supreme. Okay. So black consciousness is not just about race anyway. It's about awakening, returning to the dignity and divinity of who we truly are. We are divine beings, and we don't need to argue that much. The facts speak for themselves. So rebuilding our consciousness begins, with reclaiming our identity, like already mentioned, knowledge of ourselves as descendants of a rich, diverse continent that nurtured civilizations, philosophies, arts, and sciences long before colonization attempted to erase us. Consider the great kingdoms of Kush, the great Zimbabwe, Queen Amina of Zimbabwe, and King Mansa Musa of the great Mali Empire, whose wealth, way back in time, still exceeds that of the likes of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk in our time. Just imagine. So imagine that King Mansa Musa is alive right now with the amount of wealth he had then. He would have been the richest man alive. Just imagine after how many centuries Elon Musk cannot even boast, and you are not proud of who you are. So the thing there is that all these true historical we are evidence of our ingenuity. Their legacy is not just history; it is a living proof to who we are and what we are capable of. Reconnecting with this legacy will help us to understand our worth and to know that our worth is intrinsic. It's in us. It's right here in us. It's not defined by external standards imposed upon us. Our bloodline is a sacred gift to ancestors, those who fought, loved, built, and endured on our behalf before they met us or before we even came. Their stories are embedded right in our DNA, in our culture, our mind, our spirit, you name them. So when we we are tapping into a wellspring of resilience and that is the true African spirit. That is the true African essence. All right. So now I would like to say something radical. I believe to an extent, from the way I've been talking, even if I try to disguise the bit, it won't be difficult to know that this is somebody that is quite radical in nature. But I have to say this in a radical manner. Your healing is an act of rebellion. Take it from me.
Mm,
Your African is an act of rebellion. Every time a black person chooses therapy, meditation, journaling, or wellness ritual, every time we choose good instead of pain, every time we give ourselves permission to rest, we are breaking generational curses and colonial patterns. Mental health is not a Western concept. Don't think it's something that is originated by them. No. Before Sigmund Freud, we had griots in Africa. Before the senates or houses of assemblies, we had community councils. Before the modern day orthodox or clinical procedures or whatever, we had herbalists or herbal doctors, family elders, and some do it yourself physical rituals for internal body cleansing, you know, which have been repackaged now by our disruptors and they have now resold it to us as Ayurveda treatment. Ayurveda works. That's our heritage. It belongs to us naturally, and we do it sometimes even without being told. So long before the secular existentialism philosophy that some of us must have learned in school, okay? The philosophy of existentialism, I exist, therefore I am, right? Long before that, in Africa, we blacks already had Ubuntu. I am
Mm,
because we are. So healing in our DNA is already there. But the colonial system did everything to make us forget. Now we remember. We remember, and there's no going back. So whether you were in Nigeria, Jamaica, Haiti, Kenya, Ethiopia, Barbados, South Africa, the United States, Asia or Brazil, wherever you are, our wounds may look different, okay? But the scar tissue connects us. I hope we are getting that. It actually connects us. What if we stop seeing ourselves as scattered or as being displaced and we begin to see ourselves as strategically placed? Mindset is everything, okay? The diaspora is not a fragmentation, it's a constellation. We did not really lose our brothers and sisters. The stars can be in the sky. Each of us shining in different corners of the world, but drawing power from the same source. When we collaborate, we share knowledge and center healing, we become unstoppable. Our ancestors dreamt of this moment when they when their descendants will rise, unapologetically black, brilliantly conscious, and spiritually whole. They dreamt of this day, and the day is here. Let's mess it up. So we must keep this dialogue going. This dialogue we're having is not a one-day thing. Okay? We have to keep it going, not just today, but every day, in our homes, in our arts, in our musics, our parenting, our policies. We have to keep it going. So at this stage, let me let me also just leave us with this, okay? Indeed, we carry trauma. Yes, we carry trauma, no doubt. But we also carry triumph. We are triumphant beings. We are the descendants of people who endured the unimaginable and still danced. People who were chained, they were in chains and still sang. They were displaced and they still remembered. These are the people whose we are. That memory is in your blood. It is in my blood. Distance is in your blood, also in my blood. Healing is in your blood. It's also in my blood. You don't have to be perfect to be whole. You don't have to heal alone. Like I mentioned earlier, this healing for you alone. We're healing this together. But you also have to choose something. Yes, you do have to choose to turn inward, to reach upward, and to rise upward. So let us build consciousness. Yeah, brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Not just through theory, but through practice. Let us center mental health as sacred. Let us reclaim to transform nature. Because as a race, we are not broken. we are becoming. Thank
Thank you very much, Patience. Thank you for speaking from a place of honesty. Thank you for what you shared today. This conversation reminded us that healing is a collective journey and we are all in this together. We have some questions. I have some questions for you, which I would like you
you.
to expand on for us. And I would like to know what you think about ancestry and roots and how the knowledge or absence of it has shaped mental health journey for Black people, especially across Africa and the diaspora.
Hmm. Our ancestry and roots. Our ancestry and roots. You see, this relationship is complex. It's so complex and multifaceted, as it is also shaped by historical, cultural, and personal factors, more often than not. All right. When we black have access to our ancestral histories, it can give us a strong sense of identity and belonging. Connecting with our cultural heritage, can enhance self-esteem, resilience, and pride, which in turn actually serve for us as protective factors against mental
Mm,
health challenges such as depression and anxiety. Feel free to fact check me. Just assume that we are just blabbing. Go on, fact check me. Right? So when we know our cultural traditions, our languages, and community histories, they strengthen something in us. They strengthen our social bonds as a people and provide access to culturally relevant coping mechanisms as an individual. These support systems or support networks are important for mental well-being, especially in contexts where Western mental health paradigms may not fully resonate with us in Africa. Of recent, I held a live stream show. Uh, we had the privilege of discussing with a wonderful tech leader here in Africa, and he was talking about one of these things that we Africans do not agree with the Western, the approach towards mental health. The fact that men don't cry. In fact, the thing that I was arguing that African men don't cry in general. Now, African men don't cry. Why would we cry? That an African man would not cry to the world. That they only
mm,
cry to the walls, not even to their wives.
mm.
You see? Well, these are part of the support networks. This is how they wish to support themselves. And we can't force them to cry, can we? We can't. Because they feel it
So,
is Western. After all,
yeah.
even way back, when our forefathers, you are being flogged, you are in shame. They refuse to cry. I think that's what even infuriated the colonizers. They refuse to cry. They endure the torture. So you see, it is not in the DNA. So we cannot stop our brothers from not wanting to cry. Like they said, when they want to cry, they only cry to the wall. After that, they come out, and they're doing broke code, and all that. So, conversely, the absence of this knowledge, okay, on the other hand, the absence of this knowledge can contribute to identity struggles, intergenerational trauma, mental health challenges, especially for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora in this
Mm,
case. But they are not really right here in Africa where the camaraderie is, so it's really understandable. But recognizing and addressing these dynamics is essential for developing culturally sensitive mental health support and enabling collective healing across Africa and the diaspora. Efforts to reconnect with roots through genealogy, cultural revival, community activism, it can be healing, but they are not always accessible for the longest time possible. Okay, this access, these access are actually help, but they are not always accessible. That is the reason why in fact, we give a billion times to African ancestral link for stepping in to bridge this very gap in our generation. Yes, that is one reason why my heart went out to them. In fact, it was a case of love at first sight. Or should I say love at first hearing? or okay, whatever. All right. Using your best emojis for those who are joining us, please feel free to give them the flowers. They deserve it. Use your best emojis. Clap for them. Send them their flowers. This is part of our becoming. This is part of our becoming. All right. We're
Mm.
bringing to life what forefathers dreamt of. So I hope that's taken to the question, Esther.
Yes, thank you very much for shedding light on that question. I have another question, and it goes thus.
Okay.
What do you see as the biggest barrier to Pan African mental health unity? And what's one culturally grounded solution we are not talking about enough?
Mm, the biggest barrier. Well, you already know by now, as blunt as a knife that has not been used for 10 years. Uh, One of the biggest barriers to African mental health unity is the legacy of colonialism. We have to tell ourselves the truth. I'm sure I'm not the only one who knows this. We all know this. That is the biggest barrier we are having. That legacy of colonialism, of the legacy of ancestral heritage. It has historically fragmented our systems, imposed Western-centric models of care, bettered the lack of distrust in our local or indigenous approaches to almost everything. Imagine, these are the same people who we are saying, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. Is that not what we are doing in Africa? Way back, have you ever heard of cancer or kidney or multiple sclerosis or whatever they call it, or maybe things like pleurisy, autoimmune illness, and the rest? Was it an African thing? When we lost touch with our roots, we opened the door for Western diseases to start invading us. This time around, they did not come to colonize us. Now they send their illnesses to come and colonize us. So that is one of the biggest barriers. Oh yes, I said what I said, and that's on period. This legacy of inconsistent policies, limited resource sharing across nations, and a tendency for us to overlook culturally specific expressions of mental health and healing practices. And
Mm.
what do we have? A hindrance of development. Yes, it has also hindered the development of our continent-wide strategies. As we are right now, we are just dependent. Dependence. We depend on everything. We depend on different findings. We depend on them for data. We don't even have our own data bank. Can't we wake up and smell the coffee? Talking about waking up to smell the coffee. I hope you know it's Africa that gave the world the coffee they are drinking, no matter where they are. Yeah, let me just go the life from there. Because if I want to go into that, today will not end. Okay. So a culturally grounded solution that is often under-discussed is the integration and validation of traditional healing practices within formal mental health frameworks. Many African communities have rich indigenous approaches to mental health that is rooted in community, spirituality, and ancestral knowledge. So persons, what they are battling, all they need is just the right persons around them, the right people. No energy is something that you can exchange. And we already know that energy cannot
Yeah.
be destroyed, neither can it be created. It is already there. So all you need to do is to find the right energy and tap from it, and you'll be fine. But what do we have today? No thanks to globalization. What are we seeing? That's where the problem lies. Creating platforms for collaboration between traditional healers and mental health care professionals, even if they are coming from the secular angle. If you can create platforms for them to meet, do a kind of collabo, it will help. And
Okay.
this in turn will reduce stigma and increase accessibility because you are treating some people from the angle of what they know, from the angle of familiarity. So it will be easy for them to want to roll with you. So recognizing and formalizing these practices not only honors our cultural identities, but broadens the toolkit for mental health support across the African continent, even way overseas, thereby paving way for a more unified and culturally resonant mental health policies. Okay, after all, others are looking for ways to solve their problem. The Asians are doing it. We already had it, but we have to let them go, even if we know where to find them. Let us wake up, go back, and get back what belongs to us. That is our greatest value.
Thank you, thank you. So what you're saying is to recycle back and go back to our our initial what we were doing before
Oh, exactly. When
Western
people talk,
education and
of course, you think that when people hear about waking up, getting back to what we had, we're not talking about abusing most of these things. It's already a known thing in life. Too much of everything is bad. Okay,
yeah,
even your meal, your favorite meal, you don't eat it too much. You eat the portion that your
yes,
system digests at the time. So when we are talking about growing, it will also be in the kind of food you eat. Are you eating the ingredients? How often do you cook for what was gotten from the earth? Most of them manufactured in um, manufacturing industries, in warehouses. We eat warehouse foods. Meanwhile, the ground is the greatest manufacturer of what we ought to eat. Put some few things together and you get something delicious, simple, straight to the point, and healing. So it's all about us. If you are more intentional about the way you live your life, sickness
mm,
will not even come. Okay? You have a what they call bitter leaf. I'm sure
yes,
they know bitter leaf because bitter leaf to the white people down here, they get it. They used to make some drugs there. So these bitter leaves in question, they are healing. Do you know if you chew on scent leaves, their natural way of even removing it from your system, they deworm you naturally and they strengthen your immune system. Now imagine when you're eating, you're using most of these leaves, making our rich soups. Then maybe adding some wonderful proteins. That native fowl you are training, behind your house, your backyard. That native fowl that used to go hustle for itself and eat natural food. When you cook it and you know what is going to happen right in your system. So when we wake up, we have a lot of intentional awakening to do, a whole lot. In those days, there were no specialist clinics, and our people lived over 100 years. I mentioned at the beginning that my late grandpa, he lived for 104 years before he died. And it was even a very silly mistake that made him die. Maybe he would have lived longer than that. How often has he gone to the clinic? He never wore lenses one day. And this man, till the day he dies, he writes letters to us with the most beautiful handwriting ever. I've been privileged to set my eyes on. Mhm. Can we both of that ourselves? A 25-year-old person put triple lenses. And you're telling us, well, come on, let's wake up, let's wake up.
mm, mm. Thank you very much for that writing answer. So another question. We often inherit silence, stigma, or strength through our bloodlines, just like you
Mm,
um related previously. So
yeah.
how do you begin to confront and heal from these invisible inheritances? Did you
Mm,
get that?
yes, I got it. Yes, I got that. Um, Confronting and healing from the invisible inheritance of stigma or strength, right? Which has been
Yes,
passed down through our blood.
yes,
It is a deeply personal and often complex journey, like I already stated earlier. That notwithstanding, there are some meaningful steps we can do this healing process. We can start. by becoming aware of the inherited patterns, beliefs, emotional burdens. Okay? Those things that reflect on our family stories, traditions, and attitudes. What was silenced? What was criticized or celebrated? When we reflect on this, we also consider how this influence our perceptions and behaviors, because these are the things that shapes our world. So we have to start, acknowledge, and okay, educate ourselves, gain understanding, okay, gain understanding history and the broader cultural or societal context that shapes these inheritances. Knowledge can empower you to see these patterns as products of their time and circumstances, which in turn can help to reduce shame and increase compassion. It's also necessary for us to engage in practices like journaling, meditation, or therapy to explore feelings and memories associated with our inheritance, with who we are. It's necessary. So expressing emotions in a safe environment helps in processing and understanding. I once mentioned when you are around people whose energy can
Yeah.
feel you, not is very important. Very, very important. So that being the case, it's necessary to also seek support and community. Connect with others who share similar experiences or background. Of course, by virtue of being Africans or by being blacks, we already have that common thread in us. Okay, so we're best positioned to create support groups for ourselves, organize therapy, or cultural organizations that provides validation, insight, and collective healing. Okay, no one can do this. We do it ourselves. And we should also name and reframe certain issues. Like I said earlier, too much of everything. There are some things that go to the extreme, and that is where certain boundaries needs to be put in place. Okay, when identify inherited stigma, when you identify those stigma that you inherited or those silences that no longer serve you, you see some people saying things that their forefather or their immediate, maybe their father, grandfather, great grandfather, we are tolerating, that they will not tolerate it anymore. Even within the community, challenging some very ridiculous culture or custom that were created along the line. Okay, their fathers and grandfathers may manage to keep quiet, but they will not do it. So practice questioning these beliefs and consciously cultivate new narratives that affirm your identity and worth. Because truth be told, if we really go to who we are, trace our way back, there are certain things that common around us that we immediately abolish. That's just a fact. So it is important to set, okay, practice self-compassion. Recognize some family patterns. Let's go back home, right in the homes. There are some family patterns that may be harmful or limiting, that limit some person. They cannot really achieve or get to their full potentials. Recognize where those patterns or harmful way of living or limitations are coming from. And establish your boundary. Boundary up to protect your well-being. This is the mental health we're talking about here. Be gentle with yourself while it, okay, as you navigate breaking free from these inherited patterns. And if there are some you can break free, yes, because these are not necessarily the pass through DNA down to us, but we're talking about some patterns, some negativities that erupted along the line. And these do not define who you are. You have the permission to break it. You give yourself the permission to do that. Of course, traditions and narratives, they are necessary. Develop your stories and traditions that honor your real self, your authentic self and values. And keep reclaiming agency over identity and legacy is very important. People must go back to the default setting, if I must use, the tech language. It must return to our default settings. So the default settings, we have to be mindful of this and always engage in healing practices. I cannot overemphasize this. Incorporate activities like therapy, arts, wellness. Okay, music, no, our musics are so lifting, makes you happy. Sometimes you're so down, you feel so angry or frustrated. Then you now listen, one song will just pop up from nowhere. And you forget the problem, you stand up and start dancing. That's it. That's the black consciousness already. You're getting it, all right? So it's very important. These healing practices, please incorporate them into your daily activities. Or you can even engage in community work that promotes healing integration, okay, of some of these inherited aspects of history. So just have it in mind anyway that healing is a process. Along the line, in case you falter, don't be hard on yourself. Just keep going. And someday we surely get there. When we use our minds and spirits, we will refuel the collective healing of our communities.
Thank you very much. That's such a very powerful point. And briefly, just briefly, you mentioned something previously that colonialism's power, colonialism's power lies in forgetting. Can you briefly just like explain that to us? Just iterate that to us.
Okay, colonize, of course, their power lies in us forgetting who we are. I made mention of the health. When you forget, you are meant to be the earth and the industry. When you start remembering that, maybe, just maybe, cancer and kidney failures will forget you because they will keep forgetting who we are until we remember who we really are. That is just now principle to other aspects of living, our becoming. In a typical African organization, right here in Africa, at least we are Africa, when you go to, let's say if you're, can you put on your native attire to work on Monday?
No,
Can you?
no.
Aha, aha. So yeah, I think that can even help you answer your question already. So please, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. That's just it.
Thank you so much for this conversation. And honestly, I learned a lot from this. And I'm sure that everyone watching us right now and those that would eventually come across this um, video would learn a lot from it. Thank you for unpacking and just helping us to understand that we really need to, go back to the basics. We need to remember. We need to relearn, unlearn, learn again. So thank you very much. And to everyone that joined us today, thank you. We hope this conversation stays with you and that, pushes you to pause, reflect, and reclaim your self and your Black consciousness in your own way. So thank you very much. This brings us to the end of this live event. And until next time, because we would definitely be having more of this conversation. And just like our guest speaker had said, this is a very important conversation, and we have to keep on talking about things like this. And definitely on our next diaspora dialogue, we'll be talking about something else, but something also very necessary. So thank you very much, patience. Thank you very much. Thank you. So until next time, take care of your mind, take care of your spirit, take care of your story. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts. I hope this continues.
Thank
All
you.
right.